The air was thick with the smell of exotic, glowing incense and the hum of alien technology as Captain Noah Gray stood in the Grand Hall of the Uralian Empire's royal palace. His heart pounded as he looked around at the ornate, holographic tapestries depicting alien battles and celestial triumphs. Every step he took echoed off the marble floors, the sound bouncing around the impossibly tall columns that seemed to stretch beyond the stars. Noah wasn't a diplomat, not by a long shot. He wasn't a man of politics. He was just a human, one of the very few who'd been part of a recent rescue mission after a disastrous space pirate attack on a Uralian freighter. His ship, the Nebula Dreamer, had been on a routine supply run when the pirates swooped in, leaving behind a wreck and an almost dead alien queen. The ship's crew had jumped into action, and thanks to Noah's quick thinking and some good old-fashioned luck, they pulled the queen out of the wreckage. That Queen Litharis, a figure both feared and adored across the galaxy, had now summoned Noah to her court, an honor, or perhaps a trap, that no human had ever been invited to before. At least that's what Noah kept telling himself. It's not like he was about to get a medal or anything. He was just a man who'd done his job. A job that had involved, admittedly, touching the very intimate, green-skinned, and rather stunningly attractive alien queen. "Just keep it together, Noah," he muttered under his breath, as he was escorted by two tall, armored Uralian guards toward the queen's throne. "No heroics, no flirting. Don't embarrass yourself." As they reached the throne room, his heart raced faster. Queen Litharis sat upon her massive crystalline throne, her shimmering purple robes cascading like waves of the deepest ocean, her 6 arms resting delicately on the arms of her chair. Her face was a mix of beauty and danger, sharp angular features, a slight smile playing on her lips, and those unnervingly large, glowing eyes that seemed to pierce straight through Noah. "Human," her voice echoed through the chamber, a low, seductive rumble that sent chills down his spine. "Approach." Noah took a tentative step forward, feeling the eyes of her court, an assortment of noble aliens from all corners of the galaxy upon him. Some were humanoid, some insectoid, others entirely incomprehensible, with long tendrils or faces that seemed to exist beyond the plane of reality. The court was filled with whispers and sidelong glances. "He saved you, my queen," one of the alien courtiers whispered to a fellow, "but I hear he's quite resourceful." Noah cleared his throat, forcing himself to look calm, as though he wasn't standing in the midst of intergalactic royalty with the weight of an entire universe's expectations upon him. "I'm honored," Noah began, his voice somehow sounding far more steady than he felt. "It was my duty to help." "Oh, it was," the queen mused, her gaze never leaving him. She tilted her head slightly, the movement almost feline. "But I sense there is more to you than just duty, Captain Gray." "Please, just Noah." He tried to keep his voice casual, though his palms were sweaty. "I'm really not." She held up a hand. Her eyes flashed with mischief. "It's Captain now, isn't it? How quaint." "Tell me, human," she cooed. "How exactly did you manage to save me when you are so limited in your abilities?" And she stood, all 6 arms rising like a regal serpent uncoiling. Her body moved like liquid, and Noah could barely stop himself from staring at the graceful, sensual flow of her robes around her. Her long, iridescent wings buzzed softly, shimmering like the surface of a distant galaxy. Noah gulped, mentally reminding himself that this wasn't a date. It was just luck, a timely shot, nothing more. "Ah," Litharis purred, her glowing eyes narrowing playfully. "But I do believe you saved me by touching me, did you not?" The court erupted into laughter, muffled, of course, by the rules of Uralian etiquette, but Noah was more than aware that the meaning behind that laughter wasn't lost on anyone. The queen had a way of twisting words into something entirely different, and Noah wasn't about to let this conversation get out of hand. "I mean, I didn't exactly." "Touching me," she interrupted again, "wasn't entirely accidental, was it, Captain?" The court's laughter grew louder, and Noah could see the gleam in Litharis's eyes. The woman, or whatever she was, wasn't interested in simply thanking him. She had other things in mind. Suddenly, Noah felt the undeniable weight of their gaze. The queen's eyes narrowed, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "You see, human, I've never been saved before." She leaned in, her voice a sultry breath that sent electric shivers down his spine. "I believe it's time I repay the favor." Noah swallowed hard. "Repay? I didn't mean to." She waved a hand, and the rest of the court fell silent, as if their voices had been stolen by the stars themselves. All that was left was the Queen and Noah. Lythrus's smile widened. "Tell me, Captain Grey, what are you willing to give for your life?" "My life," Noah blinked. "I already saved yours." "Oh, I know," she purred, moving closer, her 6 arms sliding around him like tendrils of warmth and energy. "But I'm in need of something more personal now, and I wonder." Her hand rested dangerously close to his waist. "Can you offer that as well?" Noah's mind raced. This was not part of his plan. He'd been expecting a simple thanks or maybe a diplomatic mission afterward. Not whatever this was. He'd saved an alien queen, yes, but the Queen was making it painfully obvious she wanted more than gratitude. "I didn't save you for this," Noah muttered, trying to take a step back, but she was too close. Too alluring. Lythrus laughed softly. "Ah, but it seems you forgot, human, that I am not just any queen. The first and the Queen of Yulin, and I am accustomed to getting what I want." The court stared at them, eyes wide with a mix of awe and amusement. There were whispers, but no one dared to speak above a murmur. This wasn't just any royal court. This was an intergalactic moment, and Noah was the center of it all. "So," she whispered in his ear, "tell me, Captain, will you serve me or will you resist?" Noah was trapped caught between his fear of the unknown and the undeniable pull of her alien charm. The entire room seemed to close in on him, the air thick with tension. But as he looked into the glowing eyes of Queen Lythrus, one thought danced through his mind. This is far from over. Noah was so screwed. Here he was, standing face to face with the Uralian Queen, Lythrus, the most dangerous and enigmatic alien ruler in the known galaxy, and all she was asking for was, or something more personal. And she was doing it with an amused smirk on her face, like she was about to play the universe's most elaborate prank on him. He had saved her life. He was expecting gratitude, maybe a handshake, or worst case an awkward but polite dinner. Not this. "Your Majesty, I think there's been a misunderstanding," Noah said, trying to backpedal. But she followed him like a cat chasing a mouse. She leaned in close, and her glowing purple eyes practically devoured him with a predatory delight. "Misunderstanding?" she cooed, her voice dripping with that same sultry, dangerous undertone. "Oh, Noah, I think you know exactly what I'm asking for." Noah gave a nervous chuckle, wiping his sweaty palms on his pants. I'm not sure I do." Lythrus tilted her head, her 6 arms elegantly folding in front of her chest. The court remained dead silent, as if the very air had been sucked out of the room by the tension. Noah glanced around at the aliens who were, admittedly, watching with rapt attention, as if this was some kind of intergalactic reality show. "Come now," Captain Lythrus purred. "You touched me. You saved me. You can't possibly think I would let such an act go unreciprocated." Noah blinked. Wait, hold on," he stammered, suddenly feeling like the fool he was. "You think this is about you and me together?" "Why, yes, human," she said, her smile widening. "Why else would I summon you to my court? To thank you with a simple medal." She paused for dramatic effect, raising a hand to her lips like she was hiding a delicious secret. "Please, Noah, I'm a queen. The first not in the habit of handing out tokens of gratitude like some commoner." The court murmured again. "She's asking him to be her companion," one of the alien courtiers whispered. Another laughed softly. The whole situation was starting to feel more like a comedy sketch than a royal affair. Noah coughed awkwardly, trying to gather his thoughts. "Look, Your Majesty, this is really flattering and all, but I've never been the whole dashing hero type. I mean, I'm not against a good night's sleep, you know." Lythrus's eyes flashed with a mix of amusement and something more dangerous. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Well, Noah, I've never had a human in my bed before. How could I possibly resist such an opportunity?" Noah felt his face turn crimson, and the court exploded into a chorus of muffled snickers. His mind was racing, but all he could focus on was the fact that he was about to become the subject of every intergalactic joke for the next 100 years. He was way out of his depth. Wait, Noah said, holding up a hand, suddenly panicked. I get that you're royal or whatever, but there's got to be some sort of misunderstanding here, right? I'm just a regular guy and you're Seke, you're a queen. The first don't think." "Oh, Noah." Lythrus's voice was a soft, amused purr, and she placed one of her hands on his shoulder, sending an electric jolt through him. "You have no idea how tempting you are. I've heard stories of your species, you know." She leaned in, her face dangerously close to his. "Apparently human men are quite potent." "Wait, what?" Noah sputtered, his mind going completely blank. You've heard stories?" She didn't even bother to answer, just waved a hand dismissively, as if his confusion was charming. "Oh, don't worry, Noah. It's not just about that," she said, her voice a little too playful. "And there's the matter of your independence. That courage you displayed when you decided to help me." She leaned in even closer, until their noses were almost touching. "Tell me, Captain," she whispered, "how will you serve me in return?" For a moment, Noah considered running, like full-on sprinting for the nearest airlock. He glanced at the guards, who were standing there stone-faced, as though they'd seen this exact situation unfold 100 times before. It was a little too normal for them. "I saved you," Noah said slowly, his voice rising in pitch. "I didn't sign up for a—" "Oh, I think you did," Litharus grinned, revealing an array of sharp alien teeth. "But don't worry, Noah. We'll have plenty of time to figure out how much you'll be serving me." Just then, the most awkward and unexpected thing happened. A high-pitched voice interrupted their intense staring contest. "Your Majesty," it squeaked. "There is an urgent matter. A galactic emergency." The alien court froze in disbelief. The source of the interruption was none other than Squeeb, Litharus's most trusted, if not overly competent assistant. He was a small, pudgy, blue-skinned creature with multiple arms and an embarrassing habit of getting nervous in front of important people. He scurried forward, his tiny antennae twitching. "Squeeb," Litharus hissed, glaring at him. "Do you know what you've just interrupted?" Squeeb, already looking like he was about to burst into tears, nodded fervently. Noah took a deep breath, feeling the heat rise in his face. He needed to defuse this situation, and fast. If he stayed any longer, he'd be either marrying this queen or living out the rest of his days as her personal plaything. "Listen, Your Majesty," Noah said, trying to sound diplomatic. "I think we should maybe take a step back and discuss this more professionally." Litharus raised an eyebrow, seemingly unconcerned, as Squeeb started babbling about some galactic supply crisis involving a malfunctioning space station. "You're not getting out of this that easily, Captain," Litharus winked. Noah let out a groan, thinking he might actually die of embarrassment right here in front of the entire galaxy. "Well, this is awkward." Squeeb shot him a sympathetic glance, as if he were the only one who understood how terrifyingly ridiculous this whole situation was. Noah was beginning to realize that he had a real talent for getting himself into bizarre, soul-crushingly awkward situations. First, he had just casually saved an alien queen from a space pirate attack, and now he was being flirted with by the same queen who seemed to be under the impression that he'd somehow volunteered to be her companion. Oh, and now there was this whole galactic crisis unfolding right in the middle of it all. Great. "So what's this emergency, Squeeb?" Litharus growled, clearly not pleased with her assistant's timing. Her voice was still silky smooth, but there was a hint of annoyance, which Noah was starting to find sort of comforting. It meant she wasn't 100% focused on him and his impending awkward fate. Squeeb, the small, nervous blue-skinned alien, tugged at one of his antennae before speaking in a voice that could only be described as a nervous squeak. "Well, Your Majesty, it seems the Tecorian trade station, the one in the Zixa cluster, is malfunctioning. They're about to lose power, and without it, they'll be unable to process the intergalactic shipments. If that happens, the entire sector might be without food, resources, and—" "Oh, spare me the details," Litharus sighed, waving a hand dismissively. "The Tecorian trade station is the least of my concerns right now." Noah, who was still trying to process how a galactic supply crisis was actually more important to a queen than his current, utterly humiliating position, jumped in. "Wait, Your Majesty, this might be a little more important than you think. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but people still need to eat, right? I mean, that's a basic human thing, too." Litharus narrowed her glowing eyes at him but didn't respond. Instead, she turned back to Squeeb with a sigh. Fine. Fix the Tercurian station. We can resume your offerings later, she said, as if the entire let's make Noah my intergalactic plaything plan could be shelved for a bit, to Noah's mixed relief and disappointment. Squeeb nodded furiously, scurrying off with his 4 stubby legs, a look of utter terror on his face. Meanwhile, Noah exhaled a shaky breath and looked around at the alien court. It had returned to its usual state of semi-awkward boredom, the courtiers exchanging glances, possibly making bets on how long this would last before he either became the Queen's new consort or ended up in the galaxy's weirdest diplomatic incident. "So I take it you've had some practice in these sorts of negotiations?" Noah asked, turning to face Lithoris, who was still standing impossibly close to him. He tried not to focus on the 6 hands she had, which were now idly twirling strands of her violet hair as she studied him with that predatory look. Lithoris tilted her head. "Oh, Noah, you're far too uptight. I think I like it when you're nervous," she teased, her eyes glinting with amusement. "But to answer your question, yes, I've had plenty of practice. You see, we Eurelians don't just rule through power. We rule through other means." "Other means?" Noah repeated, his brow furrowed. "I mean, what exactly does that?" "Oh, don't be so naive, human. You're not the first I've seduced into my service," she purred, her voice dropping to a seductive whisper. "But I am curious, how will you respond to the challenge? You've already saved my life. After all, surely you deserve a reward." Before Noah could answer, or run screaming, Squeeb rushed back in, looking flustered and even more out of breath. "Your Majesty, I've fixed the station well, mostly fixed it. The power's back online, but there's another problem." "What problem now?" Lithoris growled, clearly irritated by all of this. "I have a human to deal with, Squeeb. You should be fixing that station, not wasting my time." Squeeb swallowed nervously and tugged at his antennae again. "Well, the station's actually on the wrong side of the Zixa cluster now, and the navigation system is still down. So they can't really leave or do anything useful without, fixing that. And I've kind of accidentally erased their communications link with their transport ships." There was a moment of stunned silence as everyone in the court took in what Squeeb had just said. "Wait, you what?" Lithoris bellowed, her voice echoing through the hall. I tried to save time. I thought if I just reset the core systems." "Squeeb," she roared, "you've turned the entire sector into a floating pile of space junk. What is wrong with you?" Squeeb, utterly deflated, whimpered as he backed away, clearly expecting some kind of alien wrath to fall upon him. It didn't. Instead, Lithoris just sighed, clearly exhausted. "You know what? Fine. I'll deal with it myself," she muttered, pacing in front of Noah, who had suddenly been forgotten, mostly forgotten amidst the chaos. Noah, sensing an opportunity to escape his reward, cleared his throat and glanced around awkwardly. "If you ever need any help fixing that, I've got some experience with navigating space stations. I mean, I'm not a genius, but..." Lithoris stopped in her tracks and turned to him with a smirk that was almost mischievous. "Oh, Noah, you'll come with me. Of course I need someone competent to help me sort this out. You wouldn't want to let me down now, would you?" Noah blinked. "Wait, what?" She crossed her arms, her 6 hands resting on her hips as she glided toward him. "I think we've established by now that you're a very resourceful human. Plus, if you help me, you might just earn yourself a reward that doesn't involve a intimatism." Noah's heart raced again. This was not how he thought his day would go, but maybe it was time to stop overthinking things and just, deal with it. "Fine," he sighed. "I'll help you with the space station, but when we're done, you and I are going to have a little talk about your reward." Lithoris's eyes gleamed. "Oh, Noah, you do have spirit after all. I like that." And with that, Noah, against his better judgment, found himself accompanying the alien queen and her bumbling assistant, Squeeb, on a galactic adventure. Whatever was about to happen next, he was fairly certain it would involve more awkwardness, more confusion, and a whole lot more of the Queen's personal attention. But that was just the price of saving an alien queen, apparently. "Well, this is going to be a disaster," Noah muttered, staring out into the void of the Zixa cluster, where the malfunctioning Tercurian trade station drifted aimlessly through space like an abandoned carnival ride. Lithoris, standing next to him, let out a low, amused chuckle. Her 6 arms were crossed, and her wings fluttered lightly in the zero gravity, giving her an air of regal confidence. But Noah could sense the underlying tension in her posture. The Tercorian station was a mess, and she was clearly running out of patience. "Oh, Noah," she purred, her glowing purple eyes flashing with something that might have been amusement or mischief. "You underestimate me. We'll fix this. We always fix things." Noah glanced at her, raising an eyebrow. "Right, so what's the plan here? You're going to suck the power back into this station with your alien mind powers, or—" "Suck power?" she asked, her lips curling into an enigmatic smile. "Oh, you think I'm some kind of—" "I didn't mean never mind," Noah said, holding up his hands. "Let's just get this thing fixed before Squeeb here does something even worse." Squeeb, who was floating nearby and trying to look inconspicuous, winced. He had been this close to a complete meltdown after accidentally erasing the station's communication systems, and now he looked as if he might burst into tears at any moment. I'm doing my best, Your Majesty," he squeaked, his wide blue eyes darting nervously between Noah and Lithoris. It's really complicated, okay? You know, with the wiring and the power guys and... Squeeb, Lithoris said calmly, her voice full of authority. "Just go somewhere far away before I have to actually suck the power from your little brain and make you useful for once." Squeeb flinched and zipped away in a hurry, his tiny arms flailing about as he vanished into the ship's control room. "You really have a way with him, huh?" Noah chuckled, turning to Lithoris, trying to lighten the mood. But there was a small part of him that found it slightly entertaining that the almighty alien queen was treating her assistant like a glorified space janitor. Lithoris gave him a long, slow look. "Don't be too quick to mock, Captain. One day you might find yourself in my shoes. We're both in the business of power, after all." Noah swallowed hard. "Right. Power." They stared at each other for a long moment. Noah wasn't quite sure what to make of her or of the situation. Was this a test? A joke? Or was the Queen genuinely trying to, seduce him? He'd had no idea alien royalty could be this complicated. "Okay, so," Noah said after a long, awkward silence. "Do you want me to help fix this station, or what's the plan here?" Lithoris smiled at him, a mixture of amusement and something else dancing in her eyes. "I already have a plan, Noah, but I have to admit, I do enjoy watching you squirm. It's very charming." "Great, just what I needed," Noah muttered, but there was no real bite to it. He was starting to realize that, despite how much she liked to mess with him, Lithoris wasn't entirely serious about her offerings. She gave him a playful push, sending him gently floating into the corridor toward the control room. "Go on, Captain, fix the station, and maybe, just maybe, I'll reward you after all this is over." Noah looked back at her, raising an eyebrow. "A reward, huh? Like a real one?" She winked. "Perhaps a real one, if you prove yourself worthy. But remember, I play by my own rules." With that, Noah sighed. "If I had a nickel for every time a powerful woman told me that." An hour later, with Squeeb's panicked assistance and Lithoris's intermittent, much-needed distractions, Noah had managed to get the Tercorian station back online. The lights blinked, the power surged through the corridors, and the control panels hummed to life. "Well, that wasn't so bad," Noah said with a relieved grin as he wiped a layer of sweat off his brow. "All it took was some old-school human ingenuity and the fact that I know how to press buttons and pray for the best." Lithoris floated beside him, her wings fluttering gently in the station's artificial gravity. "Impressive," she said, her voice almost serious for once. "Maybe you do have a little more worth than I thought." Noah shot her a sideways glance. More worth than a human being stuck on a space station with an alien queen and a freaked-out assistant. Lithoris laughed softly, her eyes gleaming. "You're quite the odd one, Noah, but I must admit I've enjoyed this adventure with you." Noah's heart skipped a beat, but he quickly shook it off. "Glad to be of help. Now, how about we get back to my ship, and, I don't know, call it even?" She paused, her expression softening, but then her mischievous grin returned. "Even?" she asked, her voice dropping low and sultry again. "Oh no, this was never about being even. It was always about more." Before he could respond, the entire station shuddered. A blaring alarm went off, and the lights flickered once more. "What now?" Noah groaned, looking up at the flashing red warnings.
Squeeb's voice crackled over the comms. Captain, we may have a slight new issue. It's, about 100 more ships from the Tercorian fleet. They're approaching, and they don't look happy. They're requesting, Queen Lithoris to explain herself. What now? Noah groaned, rubbing his temples. Lithoris raised an eyebrow, a dark smile forming. It seems that the real fun is just beginning. We'll see how you handle this, Noah, partner. Noah blinked. Did you just say what did you call me? You heard me, she said with a wink. You're my partner now, at least until we figure out what's going on with these ships. Come on, Captain. It's time to show the galaxy who's really in charge. I think I'm going to need a bigger spacesuit, Noah mumbled, but there was no real fear in his voice. He was in it now, whatever it was. The weird, confusing, and impossibly complicated world of being the rescuer turned romantic interest of an alien queen. And so as the ships approached and Lithoris prepared to face whatever galactic mess was about to unfold, Noah had one thought running through his mind. Well, this wasn't how I imagined my intergalactic career would go. But as he glanced over at the Queen, standing confidently at the helm, with that sly grin on her face, Noah realized that maybe it wasn't so bad. After all, he was about to embark on a whole new kind of adventure, one where he wasn't just the guy who saved the day, but the one who might just change the game entirely.